Welcome to Zoe Stories. Mom found my estrogen pills, now I'm her girlfriend. My name is Alex, though lately I've been spending more time thinking of myself as Alexis. It's a name that feels right, more in tune with the version of me I've been secretly nurturing for years. But back then, it was just a hidden passion, something I explored in private, late at night, away from everyone else's eyes. I had a routine. Small doses of estrogen pills I ordered online, carefully hidden in my closet, a wardrobe of feminine clothes tucked in corners, makeup lined up neatly on my desk. Every step felt thrilling, terrifying, and liberating all at once. I was 19, a college student juggling classes, a part-time job at a local bookstore, and the delicate balancing act of keeping my secret intact. By day, I was Alex, casual, low profile, careful not to attract too much attention. By night, I transformed into Alexis, dressing in skirts, carefully applying makeup, feeling the soft fabrics hug my skin, letting heels lift me higher, altering my posture until I became a confident, graceful version of myself. The thrill was addictive, but so was the fear. I could never let anyone find out. Not my friends, not my coworkers, certainly not my mom. She was a mix of stern practicality and surprising curiosity. She had always been a little nosy, not in a malicious way, but in the way people tend to notice the small details about those they love. That's why I'd hidden everything so meticulously. I had a special drawer, a small, locked compartment in my desk that I thought was foolproof. My pills were hidden there, my makeup tucked behind books and old notebooks, my skirts folded in places only I could reach. For months, I thought I was safe. My secret life was mine alone, an exhilarating escape from the ordinary. And then it happened. It was an ordinary Thursday. Classes were boring, the bookstore had been quiet, and I was looking forward to a night alone with Alexis, letting myself explore every inch of the persona I had crafted so carefully. I had just finished a long shift and returned home, humming softly as I opened my bedroom door. I set my bag down and went to the drawer to check my supplies. But the lock was gone, torn off. My heart skipped a beat. The drawer was open and my pills, my precious estrogen tablets, were gone. A noise from the kitchen made me freeze. The sound of footsteps, Mom. I panicked, my mind racing. How could she have found them? Had she been suspicious for months? Did she know about Alexis? And if she did, what would she do? I backed away from the drawer, trembling, my pulse hammering in my ears. My carefully controlled life, the boundary between Alex and Alexis, had shattered in an instant. Mom entered the room, holding a small bottle in her hand. My eyes widened, my stomach dropped, and I couldn't even form words. She didn't say anything at first. She just studied me, her gaze sharp and discerning, reading the fear in my expression like a book she'd long wanted to open. "Alex, is this yours?" Her voice was calm, but there was an undertone I couldn't quite place. Curiosity, concern, amusement? Maybe all three. I stammered, trying to find a response, but nothing came out. My mind raced through scenarios: denial, lying, hiding. None of them seemed plausible. She had the proof in her hand. She could see everything. I felt naked, exposed, my secret self on display. Mom took a deep breath and sat down on the edge of my bed. "You've been hiding this from me for a while, haven't you?" she asked softly. There was no anger, no scolding, only an unexpected gentleness that confused me. My throat tightened. I nodded slowly, barely able to meet her eyes. I don't know how to explain," I said finally, my voice shaky. It's who I am, Alexis. My words trailed off. Mom tilted her head, her expression thoughtful. "Alexis," she repeated. "You mean this isn't just a hobby? This is you?" I swallowed hard, nodding again. I could feel every emotion bubbling inside me. Fear, embarrassment, vulnerability. I had spent so long hiding this part of myself, fearing judgment, rejection, and confusion. And now Mom wasn't angry. She wasn't laughing. She was considering, watching, curious. There was a long silence. I braced myself for an outburst, a lecture, a demand to throw everything away. But instead, Mom smiled softly. "I think I understand," she said finally. "Not completely, but enough. And I have an idea." My pulse skipped again. "Idea?" I asked cautiously, my voice barely above a whisper. Mom leaned closer, her eyes twinkling with something I hadn't seen before. "You've been exploring this side of yourself in secret, and now that I know, maybe it's time to stop hiding. Maybe it's time to live it, with someone guiding you." I blinked. My heart was racing. "Guiding me?" I asked, unsure if I wanted to hear the answer. "Yes," Mom said softly, reaching out to touch my hand. "I know this is new, and I know it's confusing, but I also know this could be a chance to experience what you've been wanting. And I want to help you." The words didn't make sense immediately, but slowly, the implications sank in. Help me? Guide me? Could Mom actually accept this? My mind spun, trying to process the impossible. And then she smiled, that same soft, knowing smile. "I think it's time you see what it feels like to truly be her. Alexis. Not just at night, not just in secret, but fully. And I'll be here to make sure you don't falter." My knees went weak. The reality hit me. My secret was no longer mine alone. Mom had found the pills, discovered the truth, and instead of punishment, she was offering guidance, control, and a shocking new level of intimacy. My body felt a rush of adrenaline, fear, and anticipation all at once. "Mom." I couldn't finish. The words stuck in my throat, trembling on my lips. She laughed softly, a sound that was both comforting and terrifying. "You don't have to say anything. Just follow my lead. Tonight, you're not just Alex hiding in shadows. Tonight, you're Alexis. And I'll be right here, every step of the way." I nodded, my heart racing, every nerve on fire. The door closed behind her with a soft click, and suddenly the room felt smaller, the air thicker, the tension nearly unbearable. My secret life, the hidden world of Alexis, was no longer hidden. And now it was going to be guided, shaped, and perhaps consumed. As I looked at my reflection in the mirror, the first real shiver of excitement ran down my spine. Alexis stared back, confident, radiant, ready, but Alex, deep inside, trembled with anticipation, fear, and the knowledge that nothing would ever be the same. And just like that, the night began. The moment Mom suggested I fully embrace Alexis, my mind raced with a mix of excitement and panic. Part of me wanted to run, hide, and pretend nothing had happened. Another part, a deeper, more secretive part, thrilled at the thought of finally stepping out from the shadows and letting Alexis take control, even if it was under Mom's watchful eye. Mom led me to my room, her hands calm but firm on my shoulders. "Tonight we're going to see her," she said softly. "Not Alex. Alexis. Are you ready to meet her?" I swallowed hard, nodding, even though my heart hammered against my ribs. The room felt charged, almost electric, as though the air itself was aware of the change about to happen. My closet, once a hidden treasure trove, now seemed like a portal to another identity, one I had only explored in secrecy. Mom gestured toward the drawers. "Pick what she'll wear tonight. Don't think too much, choose what feels right. We want Alexis to shine, not hide behind hesitation." My fingers trembled as I sifted through the fabrics. Silks, satins, and soft cottons brushed against my skin as if teasing me, whispering the promise of transformation. My hand paused on a deep burgundy dress I had worn once in secret, feeling the smooth fabric slide between my fingers. My pulse quickened. This was it. This was the dress that made me feel alive. Mom watched silently, her gaze reassuring yet analytical. "Good choice," she said finally, nodding approvingly. "Now, let's talk shoes." I hesitated. The heels I had set aside for special occasions suddenly felt monumental. Every step in them demanded confidence, poise, and balance. I slipped my feet into them, feeling the subtle lift in my posture, the unfamiliar sway in my walk. Each movement transformed me, shifting my balance, not just physically, but emotionally. I could feel Alexis emerging with every step, bold and self-assured. Next came makeup, a ritual I had honed over months. My hands were unsteady as I reached for foundation, blush, and eyeshadow, each stroke of the brush amplifying the sensation of metamorphosis. I felt raw, exposed, yet powerful. Mom's eyes never left mine, observing every detail. "Don't hide, Alexis," she murmured. "Let her breathe. Let her feel." I looked into the mirror, hardly recognizing the reflection staring back. Alexis' eyes sparkled with a life of their own, framed by carefully applied eyeliner and mascara. The blush added warmth to my cheeks, the lipstick a bold declaration of confidence. I was no longer just Alex in hiding. I was someone entirely new, someone vibrant and daring, ready to confront the world, even if only within the confines of this room. Mom approached, holding a delicate necklace. "Finishing touch," she said softly, fastening it around my neck. The pendant caught the light, reflecting tiny shards of brilliance across the room. It was symbolic, more than just an accessory. It marked the moment when the secret, hidden part of me merged with the visible, tangible Alexis. As I admired the reflection, a strange mixture of fear and exhilaration coursed through me. This wasn't just a transformation in appearance, it was a metamorphosis in identity. Alexis' confidence pulsed through my veins, daring me to move forward, while Alex's cautious whisper reminded me of the consequences. The stakes had never felt higher. Mom clapped her hands softly. "Perfect. Now let's test her in motion." The next hour was a blur of practice, walking in heels, adjusting posture, practicing gestures and expressions. Each movement reinforced the duality within me. Alexis was bold, vivacious, confident. Alex was trembling, nervous, fearful of being exposed. The two selves coexisted uneasily, but under Mom's watchful eye, Alexis dominated, guiding Alex into a new reality. By the end of the hour, I felt exhausted but electrified. Sweat dampened my hair, my muscles ached from unfamiliar postures, yet a strange joy surged through me. I was alive in a way I had never experienced, entirely exposed, entirely myself. Mom stepped back, her gaze softening. "You've done well," she said. "But this is only the beginning. Tonight, you'll truly see what it feels like to live as her and what it takes to maintain the balance between fear and freedom." I nodded, my fingers nervously tracing the hem of the dress. The thrill of anticipation mingled with a pulse of dread. Each moment promised new discoveries, but also new risks. Would I stumble? Would Alex falter under pressure? Could I truly embody Alexis fully, or would fear drag me back into the shadows? Mom smiled knowingly. "Relax. Embrace it. Alexis is waiting, and she's ready for her moment." As the evening settled in, the shadows in the room seemed to deepen, accentuating every curve, every color, every subtle detail of my transformation. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. Alexis was no longer a secret. She was alive, vibrant, and poised to face whatever challenge awaited, even if that challenge was Mom's unspoken expectation that I could never return to being just Alex again. The night stretched before me, full of possibility, tension, and the unspoken question, how far would I go to live as Alexis, knowing that every step could change my life forever? And in that charged moment, I realized the real test wasn't just about appearance. It was about acceptance, courage, and the willingness to let someone else, Mom, take the reins, shaping my secret identity into a public reality I had never dared to imagine. After the initial thrill of dressing as Alexis, a strange tension settled over me. My reflection in the mirror looked confident, radiant, but beneath that polished surface, a storm of anxiety raged. Mom had been calm, even encouraging, but the knowledge that she now held the power to see me as Alexis at any moment made every movement feel high stakes. I fidgeted with the hem of the dress, my fingers tracing the silky fabric. Each touch reminded me of the duality I carried inside: Alex, who craved safety and secrecy; Alexis, who longed for expression and liberation. The two selves warred silently within me, the stakes higher than ever. Every glance at the mirror amplified the tension, my eyes darting nervously at every shadow, every creak in the floorboards. Mom watched me with that knowing smile, her gaze unwavering. "You're doing wonderfully," she said. "But remember, confidence is more than posture and makeup. It's in your energy, your presence. Alexis is not just about looking the part. She has to feel it, embody it." I nodded, though inside I shivered. I had never imagined someone else, especially Mom, seeing me this way. And yet, there was a strange comfort in her guidance. It wasn't judgment or ridicule. It was shaping, molding, coaxing me into embracing what I had only dared to do in secret. Mom handed me a small compact mirror. "Try holding her gaze," she instructed softly. "Look into your own eyes and see her, Alexis. Speak to her. Connect with her energy. You can't hide behind Alex anymore." My pulse quickened as I stared into my own reflection. The eyes looking back were Alexis' eyes, but the tremor in my hands betrayed Alex's fear. I whispered the name, barely audible. "Alexis." The sound felt foreign, like calling forth a persona I had only dared to imagine. And yet, a shiver of exhilaration ran through me. Mom circled me slowly, observing. "Good. Now let's test her confidence in motion. Every step, every gesture, every glance is a statement. She is no longer hiding. You are no longer hiding." I took a tentative step, then another, testing the unfamiliar rhythm of my heels. Each movement amplified my awareness, making me acutely conscious of how the body could communicate identity. It wasn't just clothing or makeup, it was posture, sway, subtle expressions, the tilt of a head. Alexis emerged fully with each motion, demanding attention, commanding presence, while Alex shrank behind the facade, clinging to the edges of safety. Mom stopped and studied me. "Perfect, but don't forget vulnerability is part of her too. She isn't invincible. She's human, sensual, aware. Show that balance. That's where her power lies." I swallowed hard. Vulnerability. It wasn't something I had often allowed myself to experience openly. As Alex, I hid behind clothes, words, and distance. As Alexis, vulnerability was exposed, not as weakness, but as raw authenticity. I felt my chest tighten. Could I truly live in that space, fully exposed, while someone else watched so intently? Mom's voice broke through my spiral of thought. "I want you to try something risky." My stomach dropped. "Risky?" I asked, my voice trembling. She nodded, her gaze sharp. "Step closer to the mirror, take off the cardigan, and just exist as her. No hiding. Let me see her fully." Every nerve in my body screamed caution. My hands shook as I removed the cardigan, exposing the dress and the contours it revealed. My pulse raced, adrenaline surging. Alex wanted to retreat, to cover, to hide. Alexis wanted to shine, to be seen, to exist without apology. The struggle was electric, thrilling, terrifying. Mom stepped closer, not invasive, but commanding attention. "Yes, just like that. Hold her gaze. Let yourself feel it. Let her inhabit you fully." I did as she asked, forcing my reflection to meet mine. A flush rose to my cheeks, a shiver ran down my spine. Alexis was no longer a secret fantasy. She was tangible, vivid, and undeniably present. I could feel her confidence rising, her energy radiating outward, while Alex clung to the edges, trembling in fear and anticipation. A knock on the door, or maybe it was imagined, made me jump. The fear shot through me like ice water. Mom's hand rested lightly on my shoulder. "Remember, part of her strength is control. Fear is natural, but it doesn't own her. She chooses how to respond." I exhaled slowly, trying to steady my racing heart. Mom's presence was both grounding and electrifying. Every instruction, every comment, every subtle correction forced me to confront aspects of myself I had never dared to explore openly. Alexis was emerging not just in appearance, but in emotion, posture, and spirit. We spent the next hour in rigorous practice, posture drills, walking exercises, practicing subtle expressions in the mirror, even attempting short conversations aloud as Alexis. Each interaction, though performed in private, felt charged with suspense. The idea that any wrong gesture, any moment of hesitation, could betray the duality inside me made the exercises almost intoxicating. By the end of part 2, I was exhausted, trembling, yet exhilarated. Every step, every glance, every breath was a negotiation between Alex's fear and Alexis' boldness. The tension had shifted from simple anxiety to an immersive suspense. Would I fully embody her, or falter under the weight of exposure? Mom smiled knowingly. You're ready for the next stage. But remember, it won't just be practice anymore. Soon, you'll have to face the real challenge, living as her under scrutiny, with the constant threat of being discovered. I nodded, my chest tight with anticipation. Alexis was no longer a hidden identity. She was alive, breathing, demanding recognition. And the night had only just begun. The next stage began with a deliberate intensity. Mom's eyes sparkled with that unmistakable mix of amusement and authority as she said, "Tonight, Alexis won't just practice. She'll live it." I felt a rush of both excitement and dread. To live it meant more than posture or makeup. It meant moving, thinking, and existing as Alexis in a way that left Alex's caution entirely behind. My pulse hammered in my ears as I swallowed. Could I really step into that world fully, knowing Mom was watching so closely? Mom gestured toward the vanity mirror, its surface gleaming in the soft lamplight. "Start with the details," she instructed. "Hair, jewelry, nails, everything counts. Remember, Alexis is perfection in the small things too." I took a shaky breath and approached the mirror. My fingers moved over the curling iron, twisting my hair into soft waves, smoothing the strands until they cascaded down my shoulders. Every curl seemed to amplify Alexis' presence, softening my features, enhancing her elegance. My reflection transformed as I worked, and with each adjustment, Alex's nervous energy receded, replaced by Alexis' confident aura. Next came the jewelry, a delicate bracelet, a pair of earrings that caught the light, a necklace that rested against my collarbone. Mom had chosen each piece with meticulous care, emphasizing the elegance and subtlety of Alexis' style. As I fastened them, I felt the thrill of adornment, the magnetic pull of someone else's energy infusing me with confidence I hadn't known I possessed. Mom watched silently, her gaze sharp, yet supportive. "Now," she said softly, "nails. They're not just decoration, they're an extension of her. Even her hands tell a story." I picked up the polish and carefully applied it, color by color. Each stroke felt almost meditative, yet charged with suspense. Could I do this without smudging, without faltering, without letting Alex peek through? Each layer dried under my tense scrutiny, and when I finally held up my hands, I marveled at the transformation. They were Alexis' hands now, graceful, expressive, confident. "Good," Mom whispered. "Now heels." My stomach nodded. I had been practicing in heels for weeks, yet the thought of wearing them fully, stepping confidently in them while under Mom's watchful eye, made my legs tremble. I slipped them on slowly, adjusting straps and buckles. The first tentative step was awkward, wobbly, but then, as Mom's gaze held me steady, I found a rhythm, a glide that felt almost natural. My spine straightened, shoulders rolled back, and Alexis' poise emerged with every measured movement. Mom clapped softly. "Beautiful. But remember, the challenge isn't just physical. Alexis is also about presence. Every glance, every gesture must tell a story. Make it irresistible." I nodded, feeling the tension coil in my chest. Each step, each flick of the wrist, each tilt of the head heightened the stakes. I felt exposed, as if a single misstep could shatter the illusion. But at the same time, a heady thrill surged through me. This wasn't just cross-dressing. This was metamorphosis. Then Mom introduced the final piece. Perfume. A light, floral scent that seemed almost magical. She held the bottle out, letting me dab it on my wrists and behind my ears. The fragrance enveloped me, and I shivered. It wasn't just scent. It was a signal, a subtle announcement that Alexis existed now, fully and unapologetically. I spun slowly in front of the mirror, watching Alexis come alive. Every detail, from hair to nails, heels to fragrance, had been meticulously crafted, each element building upon the last to create a cohesive persona. I almost didn't recognize myself. Alex seemed distant now, a shadow lurking just behind Alexis' radiance. Mom approached, her hand brushing lightly against my shoulder. Look at her. Look at yourself. Do you feel it? I swallowed, nodding slowly. I did feel it. The exhilaration, the vulnerability, the thrill of living as someone completely different, yet undeniably me. It was intoxicating. I felt a shiver of fear and anticipation. Could I maintain this persona? Could I live as Alexis without faltering, without Alex creeping back in at the worst possible moment? Mom's voice cut through my reverie. Now comes the true test. I froze. Test? I asked, my voice trembling. Yes, she said, her tone firm. You will move through the house, perform small tasks, speak aloud, exist fully as Alexis while I observe. Any hesitation, any slip, and you start over. This isn't just about how you look. It's about embodying her, feeling her, thinking as her. Are you ready? I hesitated, then nodded. There was no turning back now. The stakes were high, and the thrill of being fully seen, fully exposed, sent adrenaline surging through me. My heart raced, my palms were slick with sweat, but beneath it all, a fiery confidence burned. Alexis had arrived, and I had no choice but to let her take the lead. As I moved through the tasks Mom assigned, pouring a drink, arranging items on the table, speaking aloud to an empty room, I felt the tension tighten, the stakes climb higher. Every action was observed, every misstep noted. Each time I faltered, I corrected myself, pushing Alex further into the background, letting Alexis dominate. By the end of part 3, I was trembling, exhilarated, and more alive than ever. The physical transformation was complete, but the emotional journey was far from over. Mom's final words echoed in my mind. Tonight, you'll face situations you never imagined. Being Alexis is more than appearance. It's courage, it's presence, it's risk. Are you ready for that? I nodded, barely breathing. Alexis was alive, vibrant, and undeniably present. And the real suspense was just beginning. By the time part 4 began, the stakes were higher than ever. Alexis had emerged fully, but the challenge was no longer just about looking the part. It was about maintaining the persona under pressure. Mom's eyes glinted with anticipation as she announced, "Now we'll see how well she performs when things don't go perfectly." My stomach tightened. "Not go perfectly?" I asked, my voice wavering. Mom nodded. Distractions, surprises, tests of composure. Real life isn't controlled. Alexis must adapt, respond, remain flawless. I swallowed hard. Every instinct screamed caution. My hands trembled slightly as I adjusted my dress, feeling the smooth fabric against my skin. My heart pounded, but beneath the fear was a rising thrill. This was the ultimate test. Could I truly live as Alexis, even when the world was unpredictable? Mom gestured to a set of small challenges she had arranged around the room: a cup of water to carry, a delicate vase to move, a phone call to answer. Each task seemed simple, yet they were designed to test my composure, my posture, my control. I began with the cup, careful to balance it as I moved across the room. My heels clicked against the floor, each step echoing in the tense silence. I focused on my reflection in the mirror as I passed, trying to keep Alexis' confident aura intact. For a moment, I almost stumbled, but I caught myself, steadying the cup and forcing a graceful smile. Mom clapped softly. "Good, but don't relax. Distractions are coming." Almost immediately, a sudden knock at the door made me jump. My pulse surged, and I froze mid-step. Mom's expression was calm, almost mischievous. "See? Unexpected events. How does she handle it?" I hesitated, debating whether to answer or ignore it. My mind raced. Could it be a neighbor? A friend? Or worse, someone discovering Alexis' existence? I forced myself to move, maintaining the smooth confidence I had been practicing. Each step toward the door felt like walking a tightrope, my heart hammering against my chest. When I opened it, of course, it was only the delivery person. But the adrenaline surge lingered, leaving me breathless. Mom's satisfied smile reminded me that this was all part of the test, maintaining grace under pressure. Alexis didn't flinch. She adapted. She thrived. Next came the phone call. Mom handed me her phone with a sly grin. Pretend it's Isabella. Speak as her. Keep your composure. I hesitated. The thought of mimicking Isabella's voice, or even responding as Alexis, made my stomach twist. But I forced a nod and lifted the receiver. Hello, I said, trying to keep the tone light yet confident. The voice on the other end was pre-recorded, Mom's voice, teasing, coaxing me through unexpected questions, gentle challenges, and prompts designed to test my poise. My hands shook slightly, but I answered each with Alexis' growing confidence, my voice soft, melodic, and controlled. By the end, I had almost convinced myself that Alex had retreated completely. Mom clapped. Excellent. But remember, there's always a cost to perfection. One slip, and it reminds us of the other half. Fear, hesitation, doubt it lingers. Her words sent a shiver down my spine. Alexis was strong, confident, elegant, but Alex's fear was never fully gone. It lingered in the small tremor of my fingers, the quick inhale before each step, the subtle flutter of my pulse. The internal struggle was constant, unavoidable, intoxicating. Mom then introduced the final test of Part 4, improvisation. Alexis must act naturally in unexpected scenarios. You may be asked to respond, react, or perform tasks you haven't practiced. Can she stay composed? Can she embody herself fully without guidance? My breath caught. Improvisation meant unpredictability, and unpredictability was terrifying. Yet I felt a strange surge of excitement. Each challenge was an opportunity to claim Alexis more fully, to prove that she could exist beyond training, beyond Mom's watchful eyes. For the next hour, I moved through carefully staged scenarios, balancing objects, answering imaginary questions, responding to sudden interruptions, all while maintaining the posture, grace, and elegance I had practiced tirelessly. Every misstep forced me to correct quickly. Every hesitation challenged my internal control. By the end, I was exhausted, my muscles aching from tension, yet exhilarated. Mom studied me closely. You've done well. But remember, Alexis' journey isn't just about surviving these exercises. It's about living with uncertainty, embracing vulnerability, and mastering control despite fear. Tonight, the ultimate challenge awaits, the one that will truly test her courage and resolve. I nodded, my pulse still racing. Each exercise, each test, each moment of improvisation had pushed me further into Alexis' world. Yet the thought of the next challenge left my stomach in knots. Could I face it? Could I truly exist as her when stakes were highest? By the end of Part 4, I was aware of the tension coiling tighter, the suspense building to a near unbearable pitch. Alexis had emerged as a persona I could inhabit, but the real test, beyond practice, beyond guidance, was still to come. Every step, every glance, every heartbeat from now on would carry the weight of exposure, desire, and thrilling uncertainty. The air seemed to thrum with tension as Mom's gaze swept over me, evaluating every detail, every movement. Part 5 of the build-up wasn't just another test. It was the culmination of everything Alexis had been molded to become. It was the moment where fear, thrill, and transformation collided, and I could feel my heartbeat echoing like a drum in my chest. Mom leaned in slightly, her eyes piercing yet gentle. Alexis, she said softly, tonight, you won't just practice. You'll exist in full view, without the safety of rehearsal. Your every choice, every action, will define her. Can you rise to it? I swallowed hard, nodding. The weight of her words pressed down, but beneath it surged a daring excitement. I had already walked the tightrope of appearance, composure, and improvisation, but now, Alexis' survival depended on something deeper, emotional courage. Could I fully embrace her, even as the specter of Alex lingered, whispering doubt? Mom gestured toward the living space she had subtly prepared. A set of scenarios awaited me, tasks designed to elicit authenticity, exposure, and challenge. Some were simple, pouring tea, arranging a bouquet, but each was layered with distractions, sudden noises, unexpected phone calls, even Mom herself introducing subtle interruptions. Each test was a trap, meant to reveal cracks in my persona, to force Alex to fight for dominance. I began with the simplest tasks, moving through the room with grace. Each step in my heels carried confidence now. The rhythm of Alexis had seeped into my body. I adjusted her dress, smoothed her hair, and noticed the way light played on the soft waves I had painstakingly styled. The reflection in the mirror wasn't just a reflection, it was a declaration. I existed fully as her. Then came the subtle challenges. A small vase tipped slightly as I approached. Reflexively, I reached out, steadying it while keeping my posture perfect. A sudden ringtone blared from Mom's phone across the room. I answered it, maintaining calm, voice soft yet melodic. Each distraction was a pulse of adrenaline, each success a thrill that left me trembling. Mom's presence was constant, yet silent enough to heighten the suspense. Her smile suggested she knew the limits of my control, testing how far I could go before faltering. With every careful movement, I felt the duality of Alex and Alexis, the fear of being exposed, the exhilaration of living fully as someone I had longed to become. The emotional stakes escalated further when Mom introduced the final challenge, interaction. She asked me to speak aloud as Alexis, narrating my thoughts, desires, and small observations. It was terrifying, voicing feelings I had kept hidden, acknowledging the thrill of transformation, the shame, the longing, the strange delight of being observed. I feel alive, I whispered, my voice barely audible at first. Then louder. I feel free. I feel like me, like someone I've wanted to be. My heart raced, tears pricking at the corners of my eyes. The confession felt dangerous, yet exhilarating, like stepping off a cliff, knowing the fall could be soft or fatal. Mom's eyes glistened with pride and mischief. Good, she said softly. Now, the ultimate test. Can you maintain her even as fear returns? Can you hold her even when uncertainty threatens to pull Alex back in? Almost immediately, my internal struggle intensified. A wave of doubt crashed over me. Could I truly exist as Alexis? Could I survive the possibility of discovery, the awareness that Mom, and someday Isabella, might see me as I truly was? Every muscle in my body tensed, yet I forced myself to breathe, to glide through the room, to respond gracefully to sudden noises, to remain poised under Mom's watchful gaze. Then came a symbolic moment that seared itself into memory. Mom handed me a small, elegant mirror. Look at her, she whispered. Look at who you are now. Not Alex. Alexis. Every detail, every choice, every heartbeat belongs to her. I stared into the mirror, and for the first time, I truly saw Alexis. Not a reflection, not a shadow, not a costume, but a living, breathing persona, confident, alluring, and undeniably real. A shiver of fear ran through me, but beneath it, a thrill pulsed, electric, dangerous, intoxicating. I practiced a final step, walking toward Mom with measured grace, heels clicking, dress swaying, hair catching the light. My confidence was raw, unfiltered, but vulnerability lingered beneath every motion. I was Alexis, yet Alex was never far behind, a quiet reminder of the stakes, the suspense, and the ultimate challenge that awaited in the climax. By the end of Part 5, I was trembling with adrenaline, my mind a whirlwind of exhilaration, fear, and self-realization. I had been tested, pushed, and transformed. Alexis existed fully, yet the suspense remained. How would Isabella react when she discovered this new reality? Could I maintain the persona under true pressure, or would exposure unravel everything? Mom's final words echoed as I caught my breath. Remember, Alexis isn't just about appearance. She's courage, desire, control, and thrill. And now you step into the unknown. Are you ready? I nodded, though my heart pounded fiercely. The build-up was complete. The stage was set. And the suspense, the danger, the exhilaration of being Alexis was about to reach its peak. The moment had arrived. Alexis had been tested, trained, and molded through Mom's challenges, but now the real test began. The build-up of anticipation, fear, and excitement coiled tightly in my chest like a spring ready to snap. Every nerve in my body buzzed with tension. This was no longer practice. This was reality. Mom's eyes met mine, sparkling with mischief and authority. From here on, Alex and Alexis must coexist, but only one may show. Control her. Be her. Every step, every gesture, every word counts. I swallowed hard. My pulse raced, each heartbeat pounding like a drum. I had rehearsed, imagined, and embodied Alexis countless times, but now the stakes were higher. If I faltered, if even the smallest slip occurred, Alex would surge forward, exposing everything. The first obstacle arrived almost immediately. Mom had arranged a scenario meant to simulate intrusion, surprise, and unpredictability. A knock at the door, quick, firm, and unannounced, made me startle. My hands instinctively brushed my dress, smoothing the fabric, while my mind raced. Remember, Mom's voice whispered from the corner, stay Alexis. Fear is a temptation. I took a deep breath and opened the door. A young delivery courier stood there, package in hand, casual and unaware of the storm inside me. My heels clicked deliberately as I balanced the small parcel, maintaining perfect composure. Thank you, I said softly, my voice melodic and confident. I managed a poised smile as the courier left, closing the door behind him. The adrenaline didn't fade, it only sharpened. Alexis had survived the first trial, but the real tests were yet to come. Mom stepped closer. Now comes improvisation under pressure. I froze. Improvisation meant unpredictability, and unpredictability meant risk. Could I hold the delicate persona of Alexis when circumstances shifted unexpectedly? Mom signaled with a subtle gesture. Suddenly, the lights dimmed slightly, and a phone rang loudly from across the room. I jumped slightly, but forced my posture back into elegance. Each step toward the ringing phone was measured, deliberate. Alexis moved with grace, even as my heart thumped wildly. Hello, I answered, my voice steady, though a flicker of Alex's fear lingered underneath. It was Mom again, but speaking as Isabella through a pre-recorded message, teasing, curious, probing questions that demanded immediate, authentic responses. I had to improvise, to think, to speak as Alexis would, while suppressing every trace of Alex's panic. I'm fine, I responded, trying to sound natural. I've been busy. How was your day? The voice challenged me, prompting, hinting, forcing me to react naturally. I stumbled briefly, nearly allowing Alex to surface, but caught myself drawing a deep breath and continuing as Alexis. Confidence surged as I realized I could navigate this chaos, yet the tension remained razor-sharp. Next came physical obstacles. Mom introduced subtle distractions, a sudden stack of magazines left precariously on the floor, a teacup balanced on the edge of a table, a wig slightly askew. Every step required acute awareness, careful coordination, and unwavering composure. I felt my muscles tighten, every fiber straining to maintain elegance while the inner fear tried to claw its way out. Then, Mom added the final twist for part one of the climax, another presence in the house. The door creaked unexpectedly, and I froze. My mind raced. Isabella? A friend? Someone discovering Alexis? I could barely breathe as the shadow crossed the threshold. It was only Mom, her expression unreadable, observing quietly, but the impact was immediate. The scenario demanded perfection, adaptability, and poise under pressure. One misstep could unravel everything I had fought to maintain. As I navigated the challenges, moving through the space with deliberate grace, I caught my reflection in the mirror. For the first time, I fully understood the stakes. Alexis wasn't just a persona or a disguise. She was my identity under scrutiny, tested against unpredictability, fear, and suspense. Alex's anxiety lingered, but I could feel Alexis growing stronger, more confident, more alive. Mom finally stepped back, a faint smile playing on her lips. Well done, but remember, the night isn't over. Exposure, temptation, and suspense still await. Keep her alive. Every moment counts. I stood there, chest heaving, heart pounding, aware that the real drama had only just begun. Alexis had survived the initial threats, but the true test, the one where fear, desire, and vulnerability collided, was looming ahead. Every second from now on would push me to my limits. The tension in the room thickened like fog, heavy and suffocating, every heartbeat echoing loudly in my ears. Alexis had survived the initial trials, but the true crucible had only just begun. Mom's presence loomed silently, a constant reminder that perfection, or failure, was only a misstep away. Suddenly, the doorbell rang, sharp and insistent. My body froze. Not rehearsed, not part of the scenario. This was raw unpredictability. Panic flared inside, Alex clawing at the edges of my consciousness. Could I maintain Alexis under real threat of discovery? I forced myself to breathe, heels clicking delicately as I approached the door. Through the peephole, I saw a familiar figure, Isabella's younger sister, Maria, smiling innocently as she held a small gift bag. My chest tightened. If Maria knew even a fraction of what was happening, everything could unravel. "Hey, Alex. I mean Alexis?" Maria said, tilting her head, curiosity sparkling in her eyes. My lips parted, tongue tied, but I had to stay in character. "Hi, Maria," I replied, voice soft yet confident, practiced yet authentic. What a surprise. She stepped in casually, as if this were perfectly normal. I guided her into the living area, feeling every muscle tense beneath my dress. Each step, each gesture demanded perfection. Alexis had to shine, even as Alex's panic threatened to betray me. Mom observed quietly, her eyes sharp, almost predatory, tracking every subtle tremor in my body. The tension was exquisite. Each minor slip could explode into revelation. I felt sweat prick at my temples, heart hammering against my ribs as I attempted small talk. "So, I brought you a little something," Maria said, handing me the gift bag. My hands trembled slightly as I accepted it, careful to maintain grace. "Thank you, that's very thoughtful," I murmured. The words were Alexis fully realized, but my mind raced, imagining Isabella discovering this scene, seeing me like this. The thrill mingled with terror in a heady cocktail. Mom's test had clearly escalated, exposure through interaction. Every second with Maria here was a potential minefield. Every gesture, glance, and word had to be precise. One mispronounced syllable, one awkward movement, and Alex could slip, revealing the secret. Maria placed the gift bag on the table, and as she did, the corner of her eye caught my reflection in the mirror. I stiffened. Was it possible she saw something? Did she suspect that Alexis was not just a persona, but a fully realized transformation of Alex? "Are you okay?" Maria asked, tilting her head, her voice tinged with curiosity. I forced a light laugh, brushing a strand of hair behind my ear. "Yeah, just busy. You know how it is." The simple words felt like a performance on a knife's edge. Alexis had to exist convincingly, every fiber of Alex's fear suppressed, every ounce of confidence displayed. The pressure was intoxicating, almost unbearable. I could feel myself trembling slightly, cheeks warm with the mixture of fear and exhilaration. Then came the second twist. Maria, still smiling, reached for a small notebook she had left on the table earlier. It wasn't just any notebook. It contained sketches, notes, and references she had drawn of the people in our lives, including my own past appearances as Alex. I froze, every muscle taut, heart racing. This was the moment of truth. If Maria noticed anything, if she connected the dots, exposure. Quickly, I reached for the notebook with a graceful motion, flipping it closed and placing it gently aside.
Ah,
I didn't see that there, I said casually, forcing a soft laugh. Maria nodded, seemingly unconcerned, but the adrenaline surged through me. Mom's eyes flicked toward me, a barely perceptible smirk forming. This was exactly the kind of test she had engineered. High stakes, sudden threat, and the need for rapid adaptation. My mind spun, strategizing every response, every movement, every glance. I realized in that moment that Alexis wasn't just a costume or a role. She was my armor, my shield, my method of survival. Alex, with all his panic and shame, had no place here. This was her world now. Every breath, every heartbeat, every thought had to belong to Alexis. Maria eventually left, innocently unaware of the storm she had passed through. The room felt charged, every pulse of my body tingling with adrenaline and relief. Mom's gaze met mine, approving yet challenging. Well done, but the night is far from over. You've survived external threats. Now, can you survive yourself? I sank into a chair, trembling slightly, my mind a whirlwind of emotions, exhilaration, fear, desire, and shame all coiled together. I had held my composure under scrutiny, navigated unexpected interaction, and maintained Alexis flawlessly. Yet I knew the worst tests, the deepest emotional trials, were still to come. The symbolic weight of the mirror loomed once more in my mind. It wasn't just about appearance anymore. Alexis had to exist emotionally, fully, under threat, under temptation, under scrutiny. And that was the ultimate suspense. Could Alex stay buried while Alexis thrived? The evening had grown heavier, shadows stretching across the room like silent witnesses. Alexis felt the weight of every second, every glance, every heartbeat. The adrenaline that had carried her through Maria's visit now simmered into a tense awareness that the real challenge, the confrontation of identity and desire, was approaching. Mom stepped closer, her presence almost magnetic, demanding focus without a word. I could feel the duality within me clawing at the edges. Alex's panic, shame, and disbelief versus Alexis's growing confidence, grace, and allure. The battle between them was no longer subtle. It was electric, almost painful in intensity. Look at yourself, Mom commanded softly, gesturing toward the mirror. Every detail counts. Not just the dress, the hair, the makeup. Everything you are, every thought, every hesitation, is on display. I approached the mirror cautiously, heels clicking softly against the polished floor. I saw myself, Alexis, reflected back, her eyes wide and alert, lips slightly parted, body poised in a delicate balance between vulnerability and confidence. Yet beneath that reflection lurked Alex, trembling, hesitant, unsure. The mirror became more than glass. It was a battlefield. Suddenly, my phone buzzed with a message from Isabella. My chest tightened. The notification displayed only 3 words, "I'm home early." My mind raced, Alexis taking control, forcing calm into every movement. This was the ultimate test. Could I maintain composure under the threat of imminent discovery? I set down the delicate wine glass I had been holding, smoothing the fabric of my dress as I rehearsed my persona in my head. Each step toward the door had to be Alexis. Every word had to be melodic, controlled, natural. Failure was not an option. I opened the door, and there she was, Isabella, her expression curious, a hint of suspicion lingering in her gaze. My breath caught. Time seemed to freeze. Mom's eyes glimmered with satisfaction from the corner of the room, silently observing as if savoring this climactic confrontation. "Hey, you're dressed differently," Isabella said casually, though the tilt of her head and the narrowed eyes betrayed her curiosity. My mind raced, Alexis controlling the speech, Alex cowering underneath. "Just trying something new," I said softly, voice steady. I, I thought you'd like it. Her eyes scanned me, lingering on the subtle curve of my waist, the delicate application of makeup, the carefully chosen heels. It's nice, she said slowly. But something feels different. Are you okay? Panic surged. I felt Alex rising, threatening to betray me, but Alexis held firm. I'm fine, I replied, voice melodic, warm. Just experimenting a little. Mom's subtle smirk in the background reminded me this was exactly the tension she wanted. The real danger wasn't just being caught, it was being suspected. Suspicion could unravel everything more thoroughly than any outright discovery. I guided Isabella to the couch, pouring tea with careful precision, each movement deliberate and feminine. She observed quietly, asking occasional questions, each one a potential minefield. My heart hammered with every sip, every glance, every subtle gesture. I could feel the adrenaline mingling with a forbidden thrill, an intoxicating mixture of fear, desire, and exhilaration. Then came the pivotal symbolic moment. A strand of my wig loosened, falling slightly over my shoulder. My eyes caught in the mirror, and I froze for a split second, enough for Alex to surge, for panic to flicker across my mind. But Alexis's control was stronger this time. I reached up with delicate fingers, adjusting it slowly, casually, ensuring Isabella didn't notice. You okay? Isabella asked, tilting her head with a suspicious smile. I nodded, heart racing. Yeah, perfect, I whispered, voice soft, melodic. Mom's eyes sparkled. This was the crescendo of her challenge, maintaining perfection under threat, sustaining the persona of Alexis despite every instinct to flee or reveal Alex. Each small victory, the controlled laugh, the gentle gesture, the adjusted wig, was a triumph, but also a reminder of how precarious everything had become. The emotional tension was unbearable, every moment a delicate balance. I realized in that instant that being Alexis wasn't just a disguise. It was a living, breathing identity capable of navigating fear, desire, and exposure with poise. Alex, meanwhile, was becoming a memory, a whisper beneath the surface, trapped yet essential. Isabella eventually left the room, humming lightly, unaware of the storm she had passed through. I collapsed into a chair, trembling, yet exhilarated. I had survived the confrontation, maintained Alexis under the ultimate scrutiny, and resisted the pull of Alex's panic. Mom approached quietly, placing a hand gently on my shoulder. Well done, she said, eyes glinting with pride and challenge. But the night is far from over. You've survived exposure. Now, can you survive temptation? I knew immediately what she meant. The tests weren't only external, they were internal. The final phase of the climax would push me to confront desire, identity, and fear simultaneously, testing the limits of Alexis and the buried Alex. The house felt charged, every corner holding the echoes of unspoken rules, suppressed fears, and electrifying possibilities. Alexis sat quietly for a moment, letting the adrenaline settle slightly, but deep down, the real test was only beginning. Mom's presence was a constant pressure, a reminder that perfection wasn't just about outward appearance, it was about total control over body, mind, and emotion. A soft sound from the hallway made me freeze. Mom had instructed me earlier. Alexis had to navigate not just observation but temptation. And now, with Isabella gone but Mom still watching, the real challenge presented itself. Could I maintain composure under the most intense, personal scrutiny? I rose slowly, feeling the subtle sway of the dress around my legs, the heels amplifying the tension in my posture. My reflection in the mirror caught my attention, every detail perfect, yet behind the perfection lurked Alex, unsure, vulnerable. Every step toward the living room, where Mom now sat, was a test of control. You've done well so far, Mom said, voice soft, almost hypnotic. But there's another level. Can Alexis resist, or embrace what she truly desires? My stomach twisted, a mixture of fear and thrill. I realized that the transformation was no longer just about appearance. It was about embracing identity, desires, and vulnerability in a way that could no longer be hidden. Each subtle movement, each breath, each glance now carried enormous stakes. Mom's gaze never wavered. It pinned me in place, simultaneously accusatory and approving, as if weighing every flicker of emotion. I felt my heartbeat accelerate, Alexis's confidence battling Alex's panic. I could feel the duality, the tension between fear and exhilaration, coiling inside me like a spring ready to snap. Then came the moment of temptation. Mom handed me a delicate box of makeup, her eyes glinting with challenge. "Finish the look," she said softly. "Exactly as you want, exactly as you are, but no, every stroke will be observed, every choice judged." My hands shook slightly, but Alexis took control, brushing a soft blush across my cheeks, applying eyeliner with deliberate grace. Each movement felt electric, intimate, and dangerous. Alex's panic flickered. What if I slipped? What if one wrong stroke revealed the secret? Halfway through, my phone buzzed again, this time a message from Isabella. "Miss you" already flashed on the screen. My chest tightened. Desire, fear, and thrill combined into a storm that left me trembling. Alexis's heart raced, Alex's fear licked at the edges. I realized the stakes weren't just about Mom or Isabella, they were about control over myself, my identity, and my desires. I finished the final touches, standing in front of the mirror, feeling every muscle, every nerve, every heartbeat synchronized with Alexis. Mom leaned closer, eyes gleaming. "Beautiful," she said softly, but there was a challenge in her voice. "But can you maintain this when the unexpected arrives?" The sound of a door opening made me spin, my body responding before my mind. Isabella's footsteps echoed in the hallway. My pulse thundered as I realized she had returned earlier than expected, her eyes curious and sharp. The ultimate test was upon me. Alexis fully exposed, Alex suppressed, with Mom watching silently. My hands trembled slightly as I smoothed the dress, adjusting the heels, maintaining every detail of posture and grace. Isabella stepped into the room, eyes scanning me, a mixture of surprise and intrigue dancing across her features. "Wow, you look amazing," she said softly, but I sensed the underlying suspicion. Mom smiled subtly, a predator satisfied with her praised progress. I knew that one misstep, one flash of panic, one hesitation, could unravel everything. Yet Alexis stood firm, a fully realized persona commanding the space. Alex trembled underneath, but his panic was now channeled into exhilaration, a forbidden thrill that made every moment electric. The tension was palpable. Isabella's gaze lingered, Mom's eyes never left, and I felt the crushing pressure of dual identities colliding in perfect chaos. This was the climax, the test of desire, control, identity, and transformation, all compressed into one moment. Every breath, every subtle gesture, every flick of the wrist carried monumental stakes. And in that instant, I understood Alexis was no longer just a role. She was a force, fully embodied, capable of navigating fear, desire, and scrutiny with grace. Alex was still present, a whisper beneath the surface, but the balance had shifted irrevocably. The room was charged with an almost unbearable tension. Every heartbeat echoed in my ears, every breath seemed amplified, every movement magnified under the watchful eyes of Mom and Isabella. Alexis stood poised, elegant, flawless, or so it seemed on the surface. Beneath that polished exterior, Alex's panic clawed at the edges, threatening to break through. Isabella stepped closer, her eyes scanning every detail of my appearance. "I can't believe this," she whispered, a mixture of admiration, curiosity, and something unspoken lingering in her voice. The way she looked at me made my pulse quicken. Alexis's confidence held firm, but the thrill of being caught, the fear of exposure, surged through me. Mom observed silently from the side, a subtle smirk playing on her lips. This was her ultimate test, the final confrontation, the moment when desire, fear, and identity collided. I could almost hear her thoughts. Would Alexis endure, or would Alex's fear give everything away? I swallowed hard, steadying my voice. I wanted to try something different, I said softly, trying to keep the tone light, yet melodic. I think I like it. Every word was carefully measured, Alexis guiding the conversation, Alex praying it would suffice. Isabella tilted her head, a slow smile spreading across her lips. You do look different, beautiful, perfect, she said, but her eyes flickered with suspicion. But are you really okay? The room seemed to shrink, the walls closing in. Every detail, my posture, my makeup, the sway of the dress, the heels, was under scrutiny. Alexis remained outwardly calm, but internally, Alex was screaming, trembling at the thought of being unmasked. Then, the symbolic moment arrived. I moved toward the mirror to adjust my hair, and in doing so, the strap of my dress slipped slightly. A panic surged immediately. I could feel Alex's heart pounding, desperate to flee, desperate to hide the truth. But Alexis acted first, gracefully lifting the strap back into place, smoothing the fabric with deliberate elegance. Mom's eyes sparkled, clearly enjoying the tension, while Isabella's expression shifted, curiosity now mingled with intrigue. That was smooth, Isabella said softly. You handled that really well. The praise sent a shiver down my spine. Alexis's confidence soared, but the fear of exposure still lingered like a shadow. Every step I took, every subtle gesture, was now amplified by the threat of discovery. My hands trembled slightly as I adjusted the heels, feeling the exquisite vulnerability of standing fully transformed in front of two women whose opinions mattered more than I could bear. Suddenly, the unexpected obstacle, the ultimate test, appeared. The front door clicked. A neighbor, unexpected and intrusive, had arrived. Mom's smirk widened. Remember, she whispered, it's not just Isabella watching anymore. My breath caught. Alexis stayed composed, stepping lightly to greet the visitor, offering a poised smile, soft words, controlled movements. Alex's panic threatened to burst through every veneer of composure. Every step was a tightrope walk over a chasm of exposure. Isabella glanced at Mom, then at me, her eyes wide but amused, her lips twitching in a restrained smile. You're really something, she said. I've never seen you like this. Mom's subtle nod reminded me. Perfection was not enough. Now I had to navigate unexpected scrutiny, maintain identity, and keep every secret intact. The room became a minefield of glances, questions, and tension, each one capable of revealing the duality within me. The final symbolic moment arrived when the neighbor complimented the dress, reaching subtly toward the fabric. My fingers froze, caught between elegance and panic. Alexis instinctively pulled back just enough to maintain control, while Alex's panic simmered beneath the surface, threatening to surface with a single misstep. Time slowed, each second drawn out like an eternity. The room held its collective breath. Could Alexis maintain composure, charm, and allure while Alex's fear clawed beneath? The answer was not yet clear. As the neighbor left, the tension remained unbroken. Mom's approving gaze lingered, Isabella's curious expression remained, and I realized that the climax was not about a single mistake, but the sustained balance between dual identities, desire and fear. The suspense was nearly unbearable. Every nerve ending buzzed with anticipation, every glance a potential revelation. Alexis had survived, maintained composure, and navigated temptation, but the emotional and identity stakes had reached their peak. And in that final moment, as I adjusted the last strand of hair and smoothed my dress, a thought flashed through my mind, a chilling, exhilarating realization. Nothing would ever be the same again. Alexis was no longer a temporary disguise. She was alive, dominant, and unstoppable, and Alex's old self could no longer exist without tension, without fear, without desire intertwining with transformation. The chapter closed on that suspended note, the tension unresolved, the stakes higher than ever, and the audience left with one burning question: would I survive the next confrontation, And what would Mom and Isabella do when the next challenge revealed itself? The room had quieted, but the tension still lingered like an invisible current, brushing against my skin with every heartbeat. Alexis stood tall, poised, her reflection gleaming in the mirror as though daring the world to question her existence. Yet beneath that polished exterior, Alex's mind raced, a storm of fear, desire, and anticipation threatening to erupt at any second. Mom leaned back, her eyes assessing me with that same mix of approval and challenge that had defined the entire evening. Isabella hovered nearby, her expression a blend of curiosity and awe. Both of them had witnessed Alexis's transformation in full force, and now the silence hung heavily, pregnant with possibilities. I exhaled slowly, trying to calm the tremors running through my body. Every movement, every subtle gesture, every breath felt amplified under their gaze. I had survived the tests, the temptations, the unexpected scrutiny, but the challenge was far from over. The most dangerous part was still lingering, the unknown. Mom's voice broke the quiet, soft but commanding. "You've done well tonight, Alexis, but remember, this is just the beginning. The choices you make from here will define everything." A shiver ran down my spine. Those words carried weight, a quiet warning that this transformation wasn't just a fleeting experiment. It was a path that could alter every aspect of my life. Alexis felt powerful, alive, and undeniably herself, but the shadow of Alex remained, a reminder of the vulnerability that had never truly left. Isabella stepped closer, her gaze fixed on me. "You look incredible," she said, but there was a question in her eyes, a subtle edge of suspicion. "But I need to know, is this really you? Or just a game?" The question hung in the air like a knife poised to cut through the delicate balance I had fought to maintain. I wanted to reassure her, to confess, but the risk of exposure was too great. Instead, I smiled, keeping Alexis in full control. "It's me," I whispered softly, letting the word hang between truth and performance, desire and restraint. The room grew still again, each of us aware of the invisible lines being drawn. Every glance, every subtle movement could betray the secret that had become my entire world. Alexis's hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the dress, the heels catching the faint light as if highlighting the duality of who I was now. And then, the final suspenseful beat, a soft knock echoed through the room. My heart leapt and I froze. The sound was casual, almost innocent, but in this moment, every sound carried monumental weight. Mom's lips curved into a knowing smile, Isabella's eyes widened slightly, and I felt the familiar rush of adrenaline surge through me. "Who could that be?" Isabella asked softly, her curiosity laced with tension. I swallowed hard, unsure whether to answer or remain silent. Alexis wanted to face the unknown boldly, but Alex's fear pressed like a hand over my chest. Each second stretched endlessly, the knock repeated softly, deliberate, as if testing my control. Mom leaned in, whispering just enough for me to hear. "Choices have consequences. Are you ready for this?" The knock came again, louder this time, followed by the faint sound of a voice I didn't recognize, asking casually, "Is anyone home?" Panic surged. Every instinct screamed at me to retreat, to hide, to escape. But Alexis remained composed, standing tall despite the trembling in my hands and the rapid beating of my heart. The room felt smaller, the walls pressing in as the reality of potential exposure loomed like a storm on the horizon. I glanced at Isabella, her eyes studying me with a mixture of amusement and curiosity. Mom remained calm, her expression unreadable but deeply satisfied. I realized in that instant that the night had shifted from a private test to a public challenge, one that would determine not just how I was seen, but who I truly was allowed to be. As I reached for the door, my reflection in the mirror caught my eye one last time. Alexis stared back at me, confident, beautiful, alive, and yet beneath her poised exterior, Alex was still there, trembling at the edge of revelation. The door handle clicked in my hand, and just as I opened it, the screen cuts to black.